Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Astrology Now with Babula and myself, as we look at what cosmic blend of tea the planets are brewing up for us in this lunar cycle. And Babula, April was a big month, wasn't it, with the intense energy of, eclipses, retrogrades, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, but there's a little bit of stabilizing coming for us in this next lunar cycle. But why don't we kick it off with a couple of things that you wanted to talk about leading into this cycle?
Okay, great. So the new moon in Taurus is on May the 8th, but just to sort of gives a little bit of a lead into that, on May the 1st, Mars left Pisces. And I know I was getting a lot of feedback from people. Well, they're all going, "Oh, thank God, I'm so tired." And so I noticed myself on that day, that even that morning, suddenly there was a new sense of energy that I had, because I'd been so tired the previous few days, as Mars was making his way to the very end of Pisces, conjunct Neptune. So Mars is now in Aries for another 5 to 6 weeks. He's very happy there. It's his own natural sign. He is the ruler of Aries. So that gives us a bit of an injection of energy and a sense of moving forward, and getting on with things. And, of course, in some cases, Mars in Aries can trigger aggression and anger and the urge to fight and so on.
Yes.
But it's also very helpful, just because there's still Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, and that bit of Aries energy can sometimes just be a really helpful thing, to feel like we can get things moving again.
Well, it certainly has, because I've noticed that in the traffic there's been some road rage, really
Right.
aggressive driving being
Yeah.
done, and I've had to be extra careful because people seem to be hyped up,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people get impatient and their tempers can flare just like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
at some little thing, because they're already perhaps under stress and just get very impatient. Yeah.
Really impatient, like just
Yeah.
backing out of a car park in the shopping centre, for example, and you're already halfway out, but people are zooming.
Yeah.
You don't want to wait till you're finished backing out. Oh my God, it happened a few times. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's the whole vibe of that. That's right. And then a couple of days later, on May the 3rd, Pluto, which has been moving in direct motion for the last 7 months or so, came to a standstill, and has now begun its slow journey retrograde in reverse. So it's like Pluto's backing up, talking about a car backing out of a carport. I just got that image of Pluto's going, "Oh, no, got to go back again."
Yeah.
So Pluto's now, it got to 2 degrees and 6 minutes of Aquarius, and we're all very interested in Pluto in Aquarius.
Not me.
Just,
No, I don't want it. Going over my ascendant.
I know, because some people have a direct hit in very meaningful ways.
Yeah.
So is in retrograde motion now. Over the next months, it's going to come back over those 2 degrees of Aquarius and get to the border line, we could say, like the border of two countries,
Yeah.
the border, and go back into Capricorn.
Oh, yeah.
Brief final
Mm,
visit for around 6 weeks.
So,
And by mid-November, Pluto, once again direct, will move back into Aquarius and not revisit Capricorn for another 246 years.
yay,
So, yeah,
team.
yay,
So I think
yay.
that the retrograde that you're talking about, that's in Aquarius, that's still about mid-October, I think I was looking up.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So we've now got about 5 months of Pluto retrograde, but as has been happening in recent years, it's just the way the cycles are working. Then slowly, one by one, another planet will turn retrograde, and we've been getting through our winter months. It's happened the last couple of years, like a whole bunch of planets all retrograde at the same time. And that can be quite challenging. So some people even say they enjoy retrograde times, but I won't go into the whole story of that. Retrogrades is a whole subject in itself, but there are always important and good things that come out of it. It's a time to reassess and reevaluate and to go back over what we need to go back over before we can move forward once again. It's like we need to digest and process,
Mm.
yeah,
Mm.
before we can take in another new meal, that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
And digest and process thoroughly, isn't it?
Very thoroughly.
When you're sweeping up, it's like after sweeping up dirt off the floor, you sweep it into the dustpan, but there's always some fine particles left, aren't
It
there?
always is.
And retrograde goes back and gets rid of that.
That's right.
Mm.
So that's very interesting. Of course, we'll talk about that later in the year when Pluto does actually make that trip back into just the last half a degree of Capricorn. It's fascinating.
Mm.
And one final thing before the actual new moon on the 8th, on the 7th, and this will still apply on the day of the new moon, Mercury, now direct, will make its final crossing with Chiron. So
Mm.
Mercury normally whizzes through a sign in about 3 weeks when it's going at full speed, has been in Aries for 3 months because it went through this retrograde phase in April. And as you said, that was one of the main features of April. And in that retrograde journey, over that whole period, it made 3 direct contacts with Chiron, the wounded healer. And I was just thinking about that earlier. And so this is the final one. For us to ponder and consider perhaps what new information has come to light for us individually that has served our healing in some way in that sign of Aries. Mercury brings messages, information,
Mm.
connections, contacts with new people. You read something, and as the messenger, joining with Chiron, the very wise, profound wounded healer,
Mm.
what has come through for us around our own issues around wounding of the Aries principle, the masculine courage, these kinds of things, or even in our body,
Mm.
um,
Mm.
that has really served us well, that we can go forward with now.
Yeah, so some issues around, and I guess this might be, there might be more of it for males. I don't know, but like about who am I?
Yeah,
Sort of thing. Who am I as a male, or what is the masculine energy in me, whether you're male or
that's
female? How does it
that's
express?
that's right.
Yeah.
And it could also be communications issue with men, for women, perhaps with a male partner, healing some wounds around that, and also healing wounds of just speaking and speaking out,
Yes. Yeah,
you know,
exactly. Mm.
and having the courage to actually say what you really want to say.
Mm.
And that's one of the beautiful qualities of Aries to me, is that it does give us courage, to be bold and
Mm.
yeah,
Mm.
and push through and not always hold back.
Yeah.
So those kinds of things are going on at this new moon, which occurs on May the 8th, and it's in Taurus.
Mm. Mm.
So,
Yeah.
so normally I'd be saying about a Taurus new moon, we can enjoy this as a time of stability and take
Yeah.
time out to be really calm and feel stable
Yeah.
and do things that give us pleasure.
It's a time to
Um,
step back, isn't it, and realign our energies after this last cycle. Like, wow.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
it's been pretty wild.
Yes, it has. Yeah.
This last one. And of course, we've had the Uranus-Jupiter conjunction in Taurus during April with all that fiery Aries energy. So it's been a bit of a wild ride.
Yeah, such a time
Um,
to slow
yeah,
down, pause and reflect, really.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Over that dark of the moon. Yeah.
I'm so grateful for it, actually. Just to take life a little bit more slowly because it's been very busy, active, occupied,
Yeah.
where'd you go?
Very,
Burns
very,
you.
very hectic. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
And just when you think, you have a few hours or a day or two, something else happens.
Right.
Mm. However,
I know there's always a but.
however, this new moon, yes, it's in Taurus at 18 degrees, but it does form a conjunction with Uranus and Jupiter.
Mm,
So we had the Uranus-Jupiter conjunction in April around the 20th, 21st.
mm,
At this degree where the new moon is, at that kind of 18, 19 degrees.
mm,
And now the new, and so Jupiter's pulling away from Uranus. Jupiter's now at 25, Taurus, Uranus is at 22, and this new moon is at 18. So the new moon is, and it's a super new moon, simply meaning that this full moon is close to the Earth. Her orbit, at stages of her orbit, sometimes she's quite close to the Earth and sometimes she's further away from the Earth. And this is a super new moon
mm,
close to the Earth, so it has a bit of extra power. Conjunct mighty Uranus, the great disruptor.
mm,
And as we know, Uranus has been moving through Taurus now since 2018. And one of the major factors in the incredible turmoil going on the planet. And, the recent conjunction with Jupiter, of course, has really kicked in that in a big way. So this is an interesting new moon. It's in a sign that we would be looking for a bit of calm and stability and nature and doing things that make us feel good. That can still happen,
mm.
but don't be surprised if there's also some unexpected things in the mix,
Yeah.
right? And a
Oh,
few shock waves, Uranus being the master of the shock wave.
yeah. I was just checking where Venus was, but it's a bit out of all of a conjunction, isn't it? Yeah.
So that's a good point to bring her into this because Venus, just like Mars is in his own sign
Mm,
happily, when a planet's in its own sign, it's got full power, it's really
yeah.
able to be fully itself, just like we are when we're in our own home or,
Mm,
with people that we're completely ourselves with. It's good. It's
mm,
great. So Venus is in Taurus, which is her sign.
mm.
So Venus and Mars are both in their own. So Mars is now in pure, you could say, a pure masculine expression, and Venus is in a full feminine expression of, the embodiment of the feminine through the sign of Taurus.
Very interesting synthesis, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
Yeah, yeah.
And in Taurus, Venus is, and she's there for still a few more weeks, is
Mm,
very much about all things beautiful and pleasurable and enjoyable, um, sensual, just think beauty, the manifestation, which is what Taurus is all about, really,
mm, mm,
um, of beauty.
mm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And whatever that means to us, like they say, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. It's true, isn't it? We all have a different lens that we see, of what is beautiful to us.
Yeah. And with the new moon in Taurus too, it has a deliberate energy about it. I know I've got a friend who's double Taurus, and she's thorough, she's practical, she's quite artistic, a bit stubborn at times, sorry, but very deliberate. And like the elephant, it just walks very deliberately. And that's why I've got an elephant here. Oh, where is it? Over there.
Right. Yes.
Just to, embody that stabilizing, deliberate energy. Mm,
Exactly. And I know many Taurians, I've observed them over the years sometimes, and you'll see just even the way they stand, there's this grounded, you can feel their connection to earth, to
mm,
ground. It's just
mm.
energetically in their body.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
And my friend, she doesn't walk fast. She doesn't walk terribly slowly, but she walks with deliberation. That's the best way I can describe it. Yeah.
it's a kind of slow and steady sort of energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
What do they say?
grounded.
Steady wins the race.
Yeah, and they're amazing planners,
Mm,
very good at planning and organizing. It's something that comes very natural to them.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, and practical, as you said. So all of those, so we now at this Taurus new moon phase, we have Venus, and the moon, of course, is part of the new moon. The moon is exalted in Taurus.
Mm,
So the moon's very happy in this sign because if you think about it, the moon is the closest celestial body to the earth, and
mm,
Taurus is so much, Gaia, the earth
mm,
herself. And so we have the two feminine bodies, and they're both lights. Like Venus is a bright star in the sky. Venus and the moon, one ruling Taurus and one exalted in Taurus. That's quite beautiful. And I think that's quite a significant reinforcement, you could say, of the feminine principle. And
mm,
to me, part of what the feminine principle is about the body. What's our relationship with our body? Are we in our body? Are we enjoying our body? Are we using our body in healthy, productive, useful, and pleasurable ways? This is all
mm.
Taurus, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And it's a new moon. So it's about, planting seeds for the future about how you want to maybe do things differently or, just planting the seeds for now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. That's right. Exactly, because planting seeds is very much what the new moon is always about, isn't it, every
Yeah.
month?
Yeah.
And Taurus, I'm kind of seeing this as you're saying that Taurus is, I would say Taurus is the most fertile sign in the zodiac. Like
Mm,
women with a Taurus moon, like they just have to look sideways at a man and they're pregnant.
mm,
It's like that.
mm.
Because the earth is so fertile.
Yeah.
And this is a great time. I love that. A great time for planting seeds. And that can include literally, like, about 2 weeks ago, I bought some vegetable seedlings. I still haven't put them in yet.
Yeah.
It's been all sorts of things happening. And I see them out there and I go, and I water them to keep them alive, but I haven't. And I'm actually seeing that in the next couple of days, I'm going to have the space
Yeah.
actually get them into the ground.
Yeah. I feel the same way actually, that finding that space to do things because it's been such a busy time.
Yeah.
Yes, like I said before, I'm so grateful for this new moon in Taurus,
Yeah.
just to slow
Yeah.
that energy down.
Yeah, Aries is always speedy. It's just in fast energy.
Mm,
And Taurus, as you said with your friend, they don't walk fast. They don't move
mm,
fast. It's a slower, more steady, 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 unstoppable. Once
mm,
Taurus gets moving,
mm,
there's a lot of power there. So it may not move quickly, but it can really it will just keep pushing through. It's a
mm.
sign that doesn't give up. It has great persistence and hang in there ability. It just will
Yes.
hang in there.
Yeah. So I was saying to you earlier, before we recorded that even though we've still got 4 planets in Aries on the new moon, but we've got the 5 planets in Taurus. How do you see those energies sort of working together, or don't you?
Yes, that's a really great question, and you can imagine somebody born something like that, a lot of Aries and a lot of Taurus. So Aries is always the impulse
Mm,
and the rush of enthusiasm to do something. And Taurus's job, you could say, if you look at the zodiac from Aries and the journey we take round through to Pisces, Aries is always that impulse to begin something new. It's always about the new,
mm,
now, go, do it now. Taurus comes in behind and says, okay, great idea,
mm,
Aries. Aries is moving on to the next new thing. And Taurus then this is how I see it, comes in behind and says, okay, I'm going to take that. That's a great idea. I can see how this can work and I'm going to see it through to completion.
mm,
Aries has that reputation, and it's true, for not finishing things. Because it's like, once I've started it, I'm bored now and I'm on to the next.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think this combination can be, there's that still that Aries urge, and Mercury's in Aries, and Mars is in Aries now for a good more 5 weeks or so, to be pushing forward into the new. But Taurus says, okay, well, let's make this real. How are we going to take that and give it actually shape and form? Taurus is about physical form, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm thinking while you're talking, like, this is the conception and fetus stage, isn't it?
Right.
It's the point of conception where something, you go, this is it, this is what we're going to do. And then Taurus being the sacred feminine, the womb. Okay, you've done that. Now this is the growth. This is the going with it. But I'm thinking in the more symbolic term, the conception of new humanity and the birth of the new human, because we're going through that process, aren't we now?
Yeah, we sure are.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and birthing new ideas of what's possible as we go ahead. And Taurus is, okay, how do we make that real?
Yes.
So there's not just an idea, because, Mercury has been in Aries now for quite a while, as I said earlier, and it's still in Aries. Mercury is actually likes being in Aries because the mind is really quick. And so there's always an idea, an idea, an idea. Which is great. But Taurus now is, how do we manifest that in real terms? What practical steps do we need to take that seed idea of Aries, about how we as humanity move forward? How are we going to actually do that, in real terms, feet on the ground?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm sort of going back to what I just said before too, while you're talking about the Alberto Villoldo, who's the Western shaman, and he talks about the birth of the Homo luminous, which is the the illuminated new human, basically.
Yes.
So yeah, it just sort of fits in with that idea,
Yeah, it really does. And remember, the North Node's in Aries too, and will remain there for the rest of the year. So we are, the word catapulted, but maybe that's appropriate. We're sort of being catapulted or pushed forward.
Launched.
Pushed, like
Yeah,
pushed
yeah,
forward
yeah.
to be bold and brave and go into the new. And the Taurus is, and how do we make that real? How do we put that in real terms? And
Yes.
how do we manage the money, the finances? What are we doing with the earth? How are we going to grow food? Just gets, Taurus is so basic and fundamental. But I love that about Taurus. It gets right down to the basics, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's grounded.
Very. And I know so many Taurians, they get really frustrated when they see other people not being sensible,
Yeah.
and realistic.
Mm.
Yeah. And too airy fairy, or, in their view, because bring it back to what's real.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
Fascinating, really.
It really is.
Mm.
It really is. So Uranus is, still got another 2 years or so to complete this great disruption phase in the sign of Taurus, like uprooting everything. I just want to bring in Neptune here before we move on to the, what's coming up after the new moon, because Neptune now has just moved to 29 degrees of Pisces,
Okay.
right? So since 2011, 2012, Neptune, the ruling planet of Pisces, moved into Pisces, and Neptune's always in a sign for 14 years. So this is, look, a one phrase that comes to mind. This is like the great unraveling, the great undoing. Everything is just falling apart.
Yeah.
Because Neptune is the dissolver. If Uranus is the awakener through shock and change,
Yeah.
Uranus is about dissolving water dissolves things. Water can wear down a cliff face over time.
Yeah.
And so there's this dissolution and disillusion going on over this period. There's so much letting go, relinquishing, dissolving going on. And throughout 2025 and 2026, Neptune is going to be crossing. So we've got another border crossing going on, crossing the border between Pisces, the last and final sign of the zodiac, and Aries, the sign of new beginnings and the birth of the new. So this is, to me, as a very Neptunian kind of person, momentous. And that Neptune is now at the final degree. It's not going to cross into Aries this year. It actually, and I might have said this before, but it always makes me smile when I think about it. Neptune will get to 29 degrees, and I think it's 58 or 59 minutes. Like it's almost steps out, and it doesn't. It goes, no, we're going back. So it won't cross over until next year, but right now it's at 29 degrees, the anaretic degree, and these final degrees of signs are very potent. And this one's doubly so because Neptune's in its own sign, the last degree of the sign, which is actually the last degree of the entire zodiac.
So the veils of scenarios, information, etc., that we've been living under are to dissolve.
That's right.
It's just, well, they won't fully disappear though, I don't think, but they're certainly working very hard to make it happen.
They are. And in over the next 2 years, we'll see a lot more because all the slow moving outer planets are all changing signs within a very short time frame.
Oh, yeah.
And it's extraordinary. Like Pluto has just done it, but it's not quite finished. Then next year Uranus, and then that will, and then Neptune, and then Uranus, and then Chiron will come out of its long journey through Aries. All is happening within 3 to 4 years. That's extraordinary.
So people who are very Neptunian, like you said, will they struggle the most with that, or will it be easier for them?
Well, that's a really good question. And the only answer I can say is, well, really, it depends, I think.
Other aspects, I suppose.
Yeah, and where they're at evolutionarily wise as a soul. Like that's a great question because for some, this will all just be too much. Just too much, too overwhelming, too painful, just too hard, because this is a sign in which sometimes people can just feel, again, it all depends on everyone's individual chart and everyone's individual journey and process. But sometimes it can just feel like, I can't take this anymore. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It just all gets too hard and too painful and overwhelming. Unless we have prepared ourselves on a soul and spiritual level for this process and understand that one of the underlying, and Buddha spoke of this, of course, and as all the great sages and mystics, that everything is impermanent and there's nothing to attach ourselves to, and everything fades away and everything changes and dissolves. And in that process, we can open up to more of who we are as spirit, soul, connection to all that is, etc., etc. So the potential for mass awakening is huge at this time. And for many people, that will be so.
Yeah.
For others, they're just not there yet. And that's just the truth of the matter.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So there's so many different layers to this and different sides to this. So
the reason I'm thinking about, my mind's going back to what you said about Chiron before, representing loss and grief, about all those things that will dissolve.
that's right. And I've noticed there's been a few conversations lately with people of my age, and you'll remember this too. We look back at our childhood back in the 50s, 60s, 70s even, and we look back and go, Wow.
Mm.
What a different world. What a different world. It was a much more innocent time, much more simple time. There was much more sense of freedom. And
Yeah, it was more stable too, I think.
what's that?
It was more stable.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And that's not coming back again. Like it's not like that anyway.
Yeah.
That's gone. And for some people, there can be a deep feeling of grief around the loss of that,
Mm.
as we go through these very challenging times now. So there's so many parts to all of this. And of course, Neptune at 29 degrees, for those who know their chart, where is that in your chart? And like for me, that's the degree of my Mercury. So, so I'm having this transit of Neptune, which is extremely interesting. Very interesting. So stay tuned. We'll see.
Ah.
Um, Yeah, so we've still got Saturn and Neptune in Pisces now, all this year and all of next year.
Mm.
But all the other planets have now moved out of Pisces. Like a couple of months ago, there was a lot of planets, the faster moving planets in Pisces. And then there was a whole bunch of them in Aries. There's still a few in Aries. Mercury will leave Aries.
Yeah.
That will be in early June, right, end of May, early June.
Mm.
But Chiron in the North Node, of course, and Mars will stay there. And now there's a lot in Taurus. So because there's so many planets all grouped together, there's this kind of the faster moving ones are sort of moving. Now we're going to move into the next sign. And so they highlight and light up and activate the next sign.
I can't wait till they all get into Gemini. Yippee!
Oh my God, that's going to be wild. Like the Gemini new moon in 4 weeks' time, because by then Jupiter will be there.
Yes, I'll be zizzing all around the place.
Oh my God. We'll talk about that in a minute because that's coming up in
Yeah.
well, certainly by the end of the month
Mm.
after the next full moon.
But for now, we've got Mercury. You said Mercury's um, moving into Taurus. Did you say that?
Mercury's in Aries. It's
Yeah.
currently at around 22 of Aries, but
Yeah.
it will move into Taurus. And I didn't make a note of the date. It's either right at the end of the May or in the first, of May or very early June.
Oh, okay. I thought it was about the middle. All right. Okay.
No, it'll
Mm.
but he's picked up speed now, so he will move through the rest of Aries quite quickly. Hang on,
Mm.
do I have my printout that might give me the exact date?
Mercury.
Mercury goes into Gemini on the 3rd of June.
Okay, great.
There it is.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. I was reading something funny on someone's astrology site, and they said when it enters Taurus, it's still processing. What the hell just happened after spending a couple of months in Aries?
Yes.
Ah, I thought that was funny. Maybe not.
Yeah. So did I say before Mercury will enter Gemini on the 3rd of June? If I did, apologies. Mercury will enter Taurus
Yeah,
on
that,
the 3rd of
yeah.
I'm not sure if I said the
Ah,
wrong thing there. So absolutely. So when that happens, our speedy mind, Mercury is going to be calming down and settling down.
mm,
So
mm,
then, okay. What if, so just one thing to point out, after this new moon, the sun will then pass over Uranus and Jupiter over the following days. And I'll just make a note of them for those who like to track these things. May the 13th, the sun will be conjunct Uranus
mhm,
in Taurus at 22 of Taurus. So that can be quite a Uranian day where, things can suddenly occur. And on the 19th of May, the sun will join with Jupiter.
mm,
Venus will also come through on May the 18th, will be conjunct Uranus. Now, okay, now I'll wait. I'll speak about this one later because there's a really, really yummy transit coming up of Venus. So Where are we going? Okay, so on the 20th of May,
Mhm.
this is what happens. See, Neptune's on my Mercury, and I can feel my mind going. I go, where am I? I'm losing it.
Yeah, we might go over some of those dates again. Just
Yeah, I could just suddenly feel my mind go into sort of Neptune land and go,
mm,
whoa, I'm losing the thread.
mhm.
Perhaps if I go through it sequentially.
Yes.
All right. Okay, May the 13th, Sun conjunct Uranus at 23 of Taurus.
Mhm.
May the okay, yeah, I did make a mistake earlier about Mercury. May the 16th, my apologies, everyone. Mercury will go into Taurus on May the 16th.
Okay.
Thank you for pulling me up, Cheryl. That's what I needed. May the 18th, Venus will conjunct Uranus at 23 of Taurus.
Mm.
May the 19th, the Sun will conjunct Jupiter at 28 of Taurus. And on May the 20th, the Sun will go into Gemini.
Mm.
So that brings, so there'll still be Jupiter and Uranus, of course, in Taurus, but this will begin the Gemini phase of the year.
Mm. Mm.
Um, and then on the 23rd, we will have the full moon,
Yeah.
which will be at 2 degrees and 55 minutes of Sagittarius opposite the Sun in Gemini. And on that same day, on the 23rd, Venus will make a conjunction with Jupiter at 29 degrees of Taurus. Now, when Venus and Jupiter make a conjunction with each other, or they're traveling together, or even close together, astrologers celebrate that because you've got what we call the two benefics and the two brightest stars in the sky, and the two planets that we most associate with all things wonderful and positive and abundant and beautiful come together and join forces in late Taurus, which is really a wonderfully auspicious moment, I think.
Mhm.
And then the following day, Jupiter will leave Taurus. So Jupiter, the planet of abundance and expansion and growth and our quest for truth, has been in the sign of Taurus
Mhm.
for the last 12 months.
Mm. Mm.
And I would say one of the things that's been about for us is, for so many of us, we've educated ourselves about the ins and outs of how this world operates
Mm.
monetarily.
Yeah.
You know, the banking system, we have a lot more understanding about what's going on there, and the whole issues around um, cash and going cashless, for example. You know, so many more people are more informed now
Yes, they are. Yeah.
about these issues, you
Yeah.
know,
Mm.
which is a big part of what Jupiter's job is, to bring knowledge and truth.
Mm.
So Jupiter going into Gemini, which it will then journey through Gemini for 12 months,
Oh, look.
soon after the Sun has gone into Gemini, is
Mm.
going to really begin to light up the Gemini sector of the sky. And then the following day, Venus, which is traveling very closely with Jupiter. So that whole week, um, after the full moon, and we'll talk more about it then, is very much about this Venus Jupiter conjunction
Mm.
together, exiting Taurus and moving into Gemini. And there's going to be this absolute, very noticeable change of energy,
Mm. Yes. Yeah. It'll be lighter,
much lighter.
much lighter, happier,
Yeah,
perhaps more harmonious, hopefully. Uh,
hopefully. And as they do that, they'll be making trines with Pluto in early Aquarius.
mm. With that Gemini energy, there's more open-mindedness, I think,
Yeah,
because it's curious. It wants to know more, and the more you know, the more your mind has to open up, doesn't it?
That's right. Exactly. So we get exposed to new ideas and new thoughts and new possibilities and new pieces of
Yeah,
information
yeah. What date does Jupiter go into Gemini?
on the 26th.
26th. Okay, right. Oh,
And
that's after.
Venus, yeah. So the Sun and Venus will already have just gone in. They'll be in early Gemini, and then Jupiter comes in to join them. So that's really going to change the energy a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. So,
And there's a lot could say about Jupiter and Gemini, but we can definitely open that up a lot more next time.
yeah, yeah, sure. So a real shift of gears coming up.
Very much.
Hmm.
Very, very much so. Yeah. Um, Maybe I just want to say something a little bit more about Pluto now going retrograde.
Mm.
Um, I'm just sort of looking at my notes here. Pluto is, we often refer to him mythologically, he is Pluto Hades, the lord of the underworld, the god of the underworld realms, and that includes both the underworld, as in this world and what's hidden in the shadows, like the forces of power, Pluto,
Mm.
that have been hidden in the shadows, but no longer are actually.
Mm.
But it's also our own unconscious,
Mm.
the layers of our own reality that's unknown to us because it's in the unconscious.
Yeah.
And so when Pluto's in a retrograde phase, which it is for about 5 months of every year, so it's not uncommon for people to have Pluto retrograde in their chart.
Mm.
That's that's a period when we on a soul level and as a human being, as a person, are doing deeper work at those unconscious levels.
So it's about those things that keep you awake at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's also those things that come up to be seen when we're doing any kind of therapy, healing, process work, shamanic journeying, meditation, these kinds of things. It can bring to the surface
Mm.
those things that have always been there, and it's always the timing, this is what astrology shows us, it's the timing. When the time is right,
Mm.
these things are ready to come to, which is what Pluto's been doing in Capricorn all these years. The time
Yeah.
has come for those controlling forces of power, running the world, for it all to come into the light.
Yeah. The cycles,
Yeah,
cycle of time.
exactly.
As I was saying to you yesterday, the Pachacuti, which is the turning of the world, the cycle of the troubles
Yes.
and the different things going on the planet. Yeah.
Yes, and that all these things have their season. And so now we're all in a period of Pluto retrograde. So we might be revisiting old stories or old energies, things coming up from the past because there's something still there to be healed or processed or seen even.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. And that can get intense sometimes, over these past few days, as Pluto's been at the station beginning to, it can feel quite intense. And then we kind of get used to it and we adjust to it.
We do. It's
Yeah,
amazing how we do that.
it is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, we're very evolution. Oh, sorry, that was
And
my.
of course, Pluto is very much one of the big factors, astrologically speaking, of evolution. That's part of his big job is it's all about evolution.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Oh, well,
So
is that
yes.
that's
So
enough?
Taurus, slowing down as much as we can, coming down to earth a bit,
Yeah, not rushing.
not rushing, seeing if we can go a bit more steady.
And if you think about the elephant, it's you don't often see in animal documentaries, for example. I mean, we do see that, but you don't see it as often that they're running. They're usually walking fairly slowly. They're still, they're grazing, they're looking after their herd, they're being with their tribe,
That's right.
just being.
Yes,
Mm.
exactly. And yet, and this is a feature of Taurus as well, and yet when a bull elephant goes on the charge,
Mhm.
you want to get out of the way because what power.
Yes.
And that's Taurus, it's the power of that body, my God.
Yes.
Yes. So that brings me to another point that, while we're in the Taurus phase and this new moon, are we taking care of our body so that it's strong?
Mm.
Taurians naturally have quite strong constitutions. They do. They can, yeah, they just have strong bodies and constitutions. But I think that's something worth considering. How are we eating? Are we doing the exercise that's helping to keep our bodies strong?
Yeah. Yeah. More
Yeah.
walking,
Yes.
but don't not
Maybe
necessarily power walking, just movement.
move. Yes, it doesn't have
Mm.
to be fast.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It can be, building a bit of muscle strength with, heaven forbid, going to the gym or, just doing a simple regime even at home, to make sure you're kind of working the muscles and
Mm.
getting the body a bit physically stronger.
Even gardening too.
Gardening, digging,
Yeah.
weeding, pruning, all those,
Earthy stuff. Mm.
great.
Mm. Wonderful.
Mm.
Wow. So that's an interesting, sometimes after we do these episodes, I go, wow, what a lot of energy. But actually, it's more like I actually can feel myself starting to be curiously Gemini now. It's coming out.
Yes, I know. We can feel that coming, can't we? That we can
Yeah.
feel that Gemini just kind of over the horizon.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, I'm very curious now to see how the next couple of weeks play out.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
mm. Well, thank you, Babula. That's very interesting.
My pleasure as always.
Well, I'm always learning something new. So that's great. Which my moon in Gemini loves.
I know.
So, everyone, if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to give it a like and feel free to leave your comments, share with your friends, your astrologically minded friends, if you like, or anyone actually. And we will see you again very soon for the next lunar cycle, talking about what is it, full moon? Full moon
Full moon in
in
Sagittarius.
Sagittarius,
Yeah,
which will have a different energy again.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you. And until we see you again, be safe and well.
Bye, everyone.
Bye for now.